It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley as we begin a Thursday. Gary, good morning.
Good morning, and another horrible and insane day yesterday. Our thoughts and, yes, our prayers with any of the families of the victims of that horrendous shooting at the Minnesota church.
Yeah.
The left's response to it is just, really, it's just pure evil. You know, you and I were talking about the whole prayer thing that started with Jen Psaki and what a vile human being she is, and we've said this before about her. Mm-hmm. She's just an incredible, vile human being. And when you came in, I looked at you, and I just said, it's a complete straw man argument. I don't know one person. I don't know any prominent Christian. I don't know any Republican.
Yeah.
I don't know any conservative that says that prayer stops death.
Right.
Not one.
Right.
It's a straw man argument. It's about giving comfort to people who are going through a horrible tragedy.
Yes. You pray for strength and peace in the minds of those that are affected.
And that you know people actually do care. The Democrats are trying to make a case that the only solution that Republicans, conservatives, and Christians have is to pray and nothing else.
Right.
It's so completely false. You said it when I first started working with you, and you said it in a way that I think is one of the best ways to put it. You said, if the premise is wrong, everything after might make sense, but it's all false because the initial premise is wrong.
Yeah.
And that's what we have seen here. Of course, Republicans, conservatives, when it comes to crime, we're dealing with that right now in Washington, D.C. The Democrats are attempting to portray a false narrative about what, and I'll be inclusive here with, because it's across the board, the attacks on Christians, because not all Christians are Republican or conservative. Christians, Republicans, conservatives, that they have no solutions except useless prayer. Am I being inaccurate in any way?
No, actually, I've heard one or two comedians. I don't know if they ever thought this was funny, but they basically each went on rants about, because they're clearly on the left. They're clearly not believers, and they went after Christians for that, and saying that your thoughts and prayers mean nothing. I believe wholeheartedly in prayer. And when communities come together in the wake of tragedy, whether it's the Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis, Camp Mystic, over the years there have been countless. And we that aren't there, that aren't part of it, even though my wife and I do have friends who lost a child at Camp Mystic, it makes you feel as helpless as can be, because you know that there's nothing you can do for the families. There's nothing you can do for them, except if you believe in prayer and you have true faith. You pray to bring those families peace and strength in the coming days, weeks, months, and years that they will be dealing with it, which is likely the rest of their lives.
When I dealt with it, and it was the first thing that I said when I came on the air after my mom died a little over 5 years ago, right at the beginning of COVID, and I couldn't go back.
Yeah.
And you are full of emotions at that point. I mean, it's just the grief, the numbness.
Yeah.
And the first thing I said when I came back, because I received thousands of responses, emails, X posts, Facebook posts, messages saying that I was in their thoughts and prayers. It brought a tremendous amount of comfort to me. It really was, and it was the first thing that I said. If you remember, when I came on the air, I said, I realize, because it was a debate back, the Democrats were using it back then.
Yeah.
I said, I just experienced the whole thoughts and prayers thing.
Yeah.
It's the most wonderful thing when you're going through this kind of grief, when you feel helpless. You know, everybody knows how close I am to my parents. Mm-hmm. And when my mom died and I couldn't go back, and I was back just a couple of weeks before she got sick.
Which was especially tragic because, for those that don't know, you don't take vacations. When we're off, you go back and see your parents, and it's always been that way. I mean, it's always been that way. And COVID changed that, and changed it in a situation where the first thing you do as an adult and you lose your parents is go home, and you couldn't.
Yeah.
And it was especially heartbreaking.
I couldn't go back
witnessing it.
I couldn't go back for a year.
Right.
It was a full year, because I actually went back the next year. Remember?
Yeah.
Cuomo.
Yeah.
Was it? Yeah, Cuomo at the point. He opened it up a year later. You could go back, right, because it was impossible to get back, because if you remember, you had to, number one, prove that you had the COVID vaccine. Then you had to go into isolation when you got back there. Then you had to get another test. And by that time, it was 4 or 5 days that you had to be there before you could even do anything. And what kept me sane, it was the number one thing that I received, and I'll be eternally grateful to all of our listeners for that. Because you sit there and you say, people know me, our listeners know me from the radio, but most don't know me personally. Mm-hmm. And so, just shooting that off, they probably just go, well, it's just I listen to the show, and I want to give him my condolences. And so they would say thoughts and prayers, or prayers and thoughts, or whatever. But prayers were always in there.
Right.
From probably 99% of our listeners had sent it to me. And it was mind-boggling, the comfort that it brought at that time. And I didn't know it was going to have that effect on me.
Yeah.
I'd always thought I had no problem with it before at all. I mean, I was all for that. I'd done it myself.
Right.
But the fact is, when you send it to someone, you're not involved in the grief that they personally have at that point. And I know sometimes I've sent it and went, is this enough? Right. Does this really express? And and I found out from the receiving end of it, absolutely the most wonderful thing that I could have possibly ever imagined when I personally received it. It shocked me how important it was to me, how grateful I was for people just taking the time for 10 seconds or 30 seconds to write something like that out of their day. It meant the world to me. And so when I see, and I don't know what other words to call somebody like Jen Psaki or anybody else that was on that, narrative yesterday, except vile and evil.
Yeah.
Because when in any time when people in their own way wish to express something to you with the hope of comforting you when they know that you're suffering, it is an absolutely wonderful thing for people to do. And for the left to take that and turn it upside down and lie about it. That's the other thing. And lie about, well, they believe that prayers are going to stop. Nobody ever said that.
No.
Nobody ever. We all know we're not idiots. We all know there are some things, no matter what we do in society, we're not going to stop all crime.
No.
You saw that on social media. Well, you can never stop all crime. Well, we know that.
Right.
Who doesn't know that? They think they can stop the bad things from happening. No, we don't.
No.
None of us do. It's about giving people comfort, and hopefully then when you give them comfort, they have the strength to live with the grief and the loss that will always be with them.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing. It's a wonderful thing. It's a fantastic thing. And then, people just they think they can write something on social media or electronic media and it means something. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does.
It's a
Those
tremendous
communications
comfort.
mean everything. In times when, again, as these families are struggling for answers, and they will be until the end of time, to know that people are sending their love and their prayers, that they're asking God to help them.
Well, I know one of the things that it did, because I immediately started getting them, because when you went on the air that night, it wasn't like just when I got back, or, it started, immediately. And I didn't know how to process it. And, the first ones that I got in from our listeners, saying that to me, helped me to say, I can't, God, you handle it, because I can't. Mm-hmm. There are things that we can't explain and we can't handle it. Yeah. And that's where your faith comes in, and people giving you that comfort and that encouragement. Wonderful thing to have.
Yeah.
And by the way, if I wasn't a spiritual person, it still would have had a great effect on me.
Yeah.
And so I don't know why a tragedy brings out the worst in people like Jen Psaki.
Well, because it is part of who she is. Moments like this define who you are. And I can't imagine living with the mindset that you don't extend love and prayers to people. Now, they don't believe in God, so I know that part of it. But I can't imagine a life like that. I can't imagine living in that mindset.
Well, I know me, and I know that even if I didn't have any faith at all, it still would mean a lot to me. Mm-hmm. Anytime somebody wishes to comfort you in their own way, mm-hmm. is a good and positive thing.
Right.
And I just, for the life of me, it does show you the vile and evil narrative that they wholeheartedly endorse. And I understand it's her way, to lie about Christians, to lie about conservatives, to lie about Republicans, and basically say they really don't care, and so they just throw out words, but they really don't wish to solve any problems at all.
Yeah.
Which, of course, is a lie.
Right.
It's a straw man argument. It doesn't exist.
Well, I can say for me that when there's this kind of loss for anybody, I grieve. I mean, I think any good person does. And you look at the situation at the Annunciation Catholic School in Minneapolis. All but a few were children. 2 died. 14 of the 17 injured were children. And that, to me, is especially tragic. And I think of these families, having children myself and grandchildren, and you're constantly worried about their well-being when they're not right there with you. You're constantly concerned when, they go off to school at any age. When they become adults, it doesn't stop. They move into the world, and that becomes a little scarier as they learn to drive. I have another grandchild. She's getting her permit right now. We live in a city of millions of people, and they've got to navigate the highways. I learned to drive on a small back road in Del Rio, Texas, and no traffic whatsoever. And it's just one of those things that, when something like this happens, there's real grief. There's real grief.
I was going by the elementary school right around the corner from my house. There's an elementary school, less than probably 1,000 feet from me.
Yeah.
Right around the corner. And I was going by, and there was the EMT truck for some reason, and a fire truck, and I could see, a police officer outside.
Yeah.
And it wasn't related at all.
Right.
But the fact is, just going by, my heart was breaking when I went by that elementary school. I just went. I know it was a church, but still, it's where kids are.
Right.
And it was part of a school, the church, but
right.
But it just broke my heart. When you go by. So you feel grief when these things happen. And we're going to go through. That's what we do here. We analyze everything that's going on. We're going to analyze. I wish at times, there's a part of me that says, I just wish we would say nothing today. That's not our role.
No.
No, so we'll analyze everything that happened today coming up here. 866-90 Red Eye.
Hi there, this is Hope Zavara with Mother Trucker Yoga, and here's your health tip of the day. Healthy driver, healthy diesel, powered by Howes. Truck drivers are at high risk for carpal tunnel and grip issues from long hours at the wheel, leading to pain, stiffness, and weakness over time. Let's fix that right at the wheel. Using your steering wheel, stretch one finger at a time, starting from your thumb to your pinky. Hold each of those for 10 seconds. Then place all 4 fingers on the wheel and gently press and stretch your palm and wrist. Hold for another 10 seconds. Don't forget to do the other hand. Do this 2 to 3 times a day to keep your hands mobile, strong, and ready for action. There you go. Small, simple changes that can lead to big results so you can feel good again. Visit mothertruckeryoga.com and howesproducts.com for more tips and support.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We'll go over everything following the bottom of the hour. But I just had to relate this to you. I don't know if you saw National Review. This relates to our idiot. What was it? Idiot, imbecile,
and
moron from last week.
Right.
I go to National Review. Brandon Johnson is a moron. And so I started analyzing it yesterday. Okay, moron. All right. So what is it again? It's idiot, imbecile, and moron.
That's right.
Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago. Crime also just a big issue yesterday. You saw the mayor, Bowser, in Washington.
Mm-hmm.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Download our Red Eye Radio app today, and you can listen when and where you want. All right, so I want to play this audio cut here from MSNBC yesterday.
All right.
Talking is, I don't know if I'm pronouncing his name correctly. Mike Spies writes for The Trace and contributing writer for Rolling Stone. And he brings up the transgender issue here. Here we go.
Okay.
About this particular incident, about what weapon is used. We do know the person suffered from gender dysphoria and he targeted Catholic students.
But Adam,
and we're not talking about, hey, what are the solutions to
what about
actually protect
Newtown?
Catholic Christians?
What about Newtown, Parkland, Las Vegas, Buffalo? None of those people had gender dysphoria. The Pulse nightclub shooting, which...
Okay, so that was basically the argument, and
Yeah,
he
right.
wasn't making that case.
No.
He wasn't making the case that all mass shootings and those who commit them are all transgender.
Right.
That was not the point.
Right.
The point was this man was,
Yeah.
and believe that he, from what we know, is a woman.
Mm-hmm.
We've always been amazed because you've seen that argument and the fury from the left when you bring that up. Yet it is the left that constantly promotes the mental illness of transgenders.
Yeah.
The left is the one that promotes it. You and I go back to the most perfect example of it, which goes back about maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, Josh Hawley talking to the Berkeley professor, the gender studies professor. And he wanted to know, more about her thoughts on transgender. And he was doing it in a very respectful way. And she said, well, what you're doing here is transphobic. He goes, what do you mean? I'm asking about this. And she said, well, do you believe that men can get pregnant? And he goes, no. Well, see, right there, that's transphobic, because you saying things like that basically can drive transgenders to commit suicide, and they have one of the highest suicide rates of any demographic out there. Well, you're just admitting there's a major mental health problem with transgenders where you can't even talk and question. Could you please explain to me why you think this way and why you whatever? If you bring it up, they are so susceptible to suicide that you're committing a violent act against them. Well, anyone who isn't brainwashed into the radical transgender movement would look at that and say, there seems to be a mental health problem here. Maybe you need to be concerned about that, instead of enabling the delusional thoughts by saying, children ought to be able to cut off their private parts.
Right. Completely ignore the mental health crisis.
Right. But the incredible thing is, it's the Democrats and the left that has constantly brought up in plain view and as blunt as you can possibly bring up that there's a huge mental health problem with transgenders.
Right.
They're the ones. It's their argument. And then when you bring it up, how dare you do that? That's transphobic. You're the ones that are promoting that as an issue, which is why we can't even talk about it, because if you talk about it, your message is you're communicating to me. If I even bring it up or question it or wish to research it out of pure curiosity or compassion because they have the highest suicide. Well, then there must be a mental health. There's no mental health problem. Well, you just said they're more susceptible to committing suicide. We know they are, but that's only used as an argument against you not to talk about it. You can't talk about the fact that there might be a mental health problem because that demographic is way more than the average person to try and commit suicide. Well, what the hell? You can't have it both ways. And they're trying to have it both ways, as you saw yesterday. You bring it up, but. Everything is a straw man. everything is a lie that they bring up. And you saw it there. I don't know who the person was arguing with them. Well, but this mass shooting wasn't it. He wasn't saying that. He was saying this one, and there have been an increasing number of people who believe that they're transgender committing mass shootings. To have a curiosity as to why that's happening is not mean. It's not immoral. There's nothing wrong with it. You're saying this is what's happening. You are on the left. You're opposing what I'm saying, but it's the left. It's you. It's people that agree with you that are telling me there's a huge mental health issue here with transgenders. And when I bring it up, I'm the bad guy?
Well, and whether the mental health crisis manifests in suicidal thoughts or thoughts of violence against others, and then ultimately what we learned yesterday, taking action on those thoughts and putting them into action and actually killing others and injuring people, it has to be addressed.
Absolutely it does.
And you look at the left, we've talked about a number of things about the dynamics, mass shootings in general, and the dynamics behind them, but especially when it's a young person. All right, what's going on there? What's going on in their life that may have set this off? Every case is different, but every case must be investigated because the idea is to get to a solution. The idea is to one day get to a solution. What is it that is setting individuals off like this? And I don't have the answers. But anytime you discuss any part of it, especially if they happen to be a transgender, all of a sudden it's taken down. No, that had nothing to do with it. Well, what about his anti-Semitic thoughts? This is stuff that actually is in line with the radical liberal left, according to authorities and his manifesto. This is what we have seen recently.
It's a message that's coming from the left.
It
Everything
is
that you saw there, what
right
was written
there.
on the guns.
It's
like,
the radical left all day long. What he wrote on his guns, his entire manifesto shows you where he was mentally. And he stood with the radical left. And then put that into action yesterday, taking 2 lives and injuring many others, most of whom were children.
Yeah. And so I just find that when you sit back and look at it, you're like, what are you talking about? That's the incredible thing is the mental health crisis of transgenders is what's being promoted. And the solution, as we said, this is why it's so insane. Well, the solution is it's a huge mental health crisis. And if you don't agree with them, they'll commit suicide. And so the solution is let children cut off their body parts.
Yeah.
I mean, it's pure insanity.
It is.
It's absolute. And as we have said, they don't give a damn about transgenders.
No.
Otherwise, you'd want to get to the root cause and say, this is somebody who needs tremendous amount of counseling. If I just question somebody and say, well, why do you think this? You can't do that. Why not? Because they'll commit suicide. Then there's a huge mental health crisis here.
Yep.
And that's, again, I'll say it over and over again, that argument is coming. It was created by the left to stop the right from even asking questions about it. I have a tremendous amount of compassion. If somebody is suffering, if somebody believes, if they believe, if you're a man and you believe you're a woman and you're suffering and you have thoughts of suicide and the gender dysphoria, which isn't fully understood yet, leads to suicidal thoughts, as the left is telling us it does, I have a tremendous amount of compassion. The last thing I'm going to do is, you're having those thoughts, as a 14-year-old, cut off your private parts if you wish to.
Well, that's
Who the
it.
hell does? What adult does that.
The left is fighting, literally, legally fighting for them to be able to do that as children, and they haven't even started to address the mental health issue.
Right. That they are the ones that are promoting is there.
Which is why I believe that anybody doing that surgery, any doctor doing that surgery on a child should go to prison.
I agree.
Because without counseling, and quite possibly years and years of counseling, I mean for an adult, it should never be done. That should be a requirement for adults. When it comes to children, you address it. The parents, doctors, everybody, they address it. But no remedy would be, because they call it gender-affirming care. That's not care. Being with that child every day, having those discussions, working with professionals so that they can find their way, whatever their way is going to be. And when they become an adult, they can make decisions having done the work. The left has no interest in that. They want to expedite this process and leave parents even out of the equation. And it has to end. This has to stop. This kind of madness, when we can all see the mental health crisis, this kind of madness has to end. And I just don't know where it does. The left is doubling, tripling down. This is the hill politically right now that they are willing to die on.
Yeah.
And it goes on and on and on. And for those of us who have great compassion for the families of the injured and the lost, I know I can include myself, and I'm sure I speak for many others. I also pray for the mental health well-being of any child who is suffering, and I hope they get the attention that they deserve, and they get the treatment they deserve, which is not ever to include something that is irreversible.
Right. But in the arena of ideas, I just find it amazing what I was hearing yesterday. If somebody brings it up, that they're immediately shut down with not actually having the debate, but they're shut down by the left, and the left is the one that created the argument that there's a huge mental health problem with transgenders because they're much more likely to commit suicide, which is why you need to enable them, even as children, into any thoughts that they have. It makes no sense. There isn't any type of connecting the dots. There is no compassion.
None.
There is no concern to research this to find out, what we can possibly do. Now, we may not be able to understand the human mind on this for a long, long time, but don't sell me that it's the left that has this compassion, because they admit there's a huge mental health problem, and the only way to solve it is to let children cut off their body parts.
Right.
And then when you bring up the mental health issue, what are you talking about? How can you do this? You're transphobic. You're this. You brought it up.
Yep.
It's your major argument.
Yep.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. We'll give you the perfect example of the left here, who, like I said, in the radical transgender movement, they're the ones that created it. They're the ones that created the argument that it's a mental illness.
Yeah.
And we'll give you that perfect example coming up following the top of the hour, because it's important to tear apart their argument. This is an argument, every argument they have on almost every single issue can easily be torn apart. And we've criticized the Republicans for not doing it. Just don't throw out rhetoric. Tear it apart point by point by point by point, as we're going to do here.
Yep.
Because when you saw yesterday, when anybody would bring up, well, we need to look at these transgenders that have committed, mass killings, and we need to research that also. Yeah, but they don't commit all of them. Nobody made that case. And you can't bring that up. That's transphobic to do it. No, it's not.
No, it isn't.
I don't even know what transphobic is. I don't know.
Yeah. No.
That the whole term to begin with is stupid.
Mm-hmm.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning. So wanted to play for you the perfect example. It's something that we played. This was actually from July 13th, 2022.
All right.
Okay, so a little over 3 years ago.
All right.
When this happened, Berkeley law professor talking with Josh Hawley. And this is making the point after seeing what we saw yesterday, where you had whether it was on the audio cut we played you was on MSNBC, where they said, well, the shooter was a transgender, and immediately, it was like, whoa, 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 whoa. You could hear him all, jump in. Mm-hmm. And I don't know who the other person on the panel was who said, well, this shooting wasn't a transgender. This shooting wasn't, and that wasn't the point that he was making. He was making the point that this one was, and there seem to be more increasing incidents where they are, and talked about gender dysphoria and the mental challenges, and just you can't do that on the left. But as we have stated, it is the left that created that argument to begin with. They're the ones that have said you cannot even bring up and have a discussion or ask questions because transgenders are much more likely to attempt suicide.
Right.
And we went, well, you're just saying there's a huge mental issue here. And when you bring it up, when there is something like this that happens that clearly is a mental issue, that you can't bring that up at all. Well, you can't have it both ways. But here's the most perfect example. And you can see Josh Hawley's trying to get into this professor's mind. Explain this to me so I understand. And then she says, even the line of questioning is transphobic. Watch where this goes.
Mr. Bridges, you said several times, you've used a phrase, I want to make sure I understand what you mean by it. You've referred to people with a capacity for pregnancy. Would that be women?
Many women, cis women, have the capacity for pregnancy. Many cis women do not have the capacity for pregnancy. There are also trans men who are capable of pregnancy, as well as non-binary people who are capable of pregnancy.
So this isn't really a women's rights issue.
We can recognize that this impacts women while also recognizing that it impacts other groups. Those things are not mutually exclusive, Senator Hawley.
Oh, so your view is that the core of this right then is about what?
So I want to recognize that your line of questioning is transphobic, and it opens up trans people to violence by not recognizing that.
Wow, you're saying that I'm opening up people to violence by asking whether or not women are the folks who can have pregnancies?
So I want to note that 1 out of 5 transgender persons have attempted suicide.
So we can leave it right there. That's it. That's the entire point. That's the argument that they're making. You can't even ask the question, because 1 out of 5 commit suicide, and you're committing violence by even asking a question because they're more likely to commit suicide than the average, than I guess, per capita, the average person in any other demographic that exists out there. That if it's 20%, that's huge, and so you can't even bring it up because you may drive them to suicide, which is then violence on your part. It's an insane argument, but it's their argument. They created the argument. The right did not create the argument. The left did in order to stop the right, because you can see how uncomfortable she is having to explain it.
Well, that's it. They never actually want to discuss the issue. They only want to promote agenda.
Right. And you have to agree you can't question it.
Right.
Because then you're evil if you question it.
Right. That's how they shut down the discussion.
Right. But the argument of mental health of transgenders came from the left and the supporters of the radical transgender movement.
Well, it makes me believe that the left is afraid to have the discussion, this particular discussion about transgenders, because then it stops the agenda. Maybe they're afraid they'll find out that the reason that those with gender dysphoria have, in so many cases, a mental health crisis is because they don't want to make that permanent change in their life. They're uncertain. I can't imagine being in that place.
Well, we know that's true because we know those that have gotten the surgery or the hormone treatment, there's a significant number that absolutely regret it a few years later.
Which is, again, stands as the purpose in my mind that the left doesn't want to have the discussion. And also, this is why they want to fight to mutilate children.
Yeah.
Because once it's done, it's done. That's who you are. We win on our agenda. Nothing else matters, not the life of the person, not the life of the child, and what they'll go through for the rest of their lives.
Their life, their mental health doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because we're going to be proven right. And it doesn't matter because once this is done, then everything is permanent and you can't do anything about it. That's care. That's gender affirming care. It's quite the opposite. It's an evil approach to a growing crisis that the left wants to shut the discussion on. Full stop. No discussion. The reason they want to win the legal battle is because they know there will be more and more children who don't have the mental capacity yet to make such decisions that will, in those moments of confusion, make that decision, and then it will be irreversible. They know. They want to be proven right. Prove to the world, see, nothing's wrong here as long as we ignore the massive mental health crisis.
And at the same time, saying that this is all normal.
Right. You have to.
Right.
In order to get away with it, you have to say nothing is wrong.
Right. As you then tell everybody who's asking questions about it that there's something wrong because they have a much greater incident of committing suicide.
Right.
I mean, it's just, and you just have to, and you and I have talked about this before. The right still has not addressed this as we have and just destroyed the argument of the left. It's almost as if even Hawley there he's on the defensive. What do you mean? What do you mean? What do I mean?
Yeah, because I would have stopped right there and said, you're telling me there is a massive mental health crisis and you don't want to discuss it?
Yeah. And you're putting me on you're trying to put me on the defensive? On so many issues with the right, they're still on the defensive instead of attacking. There's no reason to be on the defensive on this issue at all.
No.
In the arena of ideas, you attack. You attack their bogus points. You attack their lack of being able to connect the dots. You attack the fact that they say one thing here and something else over here.
Mm-hmm.
You attack in the arena of ideas. You should never be. I don't know of an issue right now that the left has that the right has to ever be on the defensive. And if they ever attempt to put you on defense, that's when you attack.
Right.
You intercept, to use a football narrative, you intercept the ball and you go back on offense.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really amazing. And, that's where I shake my head. Now, I understand the insanity of the left, but I think it's important that the right has to look at these arguments, stop being on the defensive, tear them apart, point by point by point, and you do it every single day. You never rest in the arena of ideas ever.
No, you can't.
We live in a constitutional republic that has a Bill of Rights, freedom of speech. This is where you use it. And this is where, in the arena of ideas, you are on the offense. You attack every single day. They cannot make their argument.
No.
You saw it yesterday. They can't make the argument. They will defer to something else. They'll bring up another topic. They'll use a straw person. Every single time they do it, you hit them on the specifics of that argument.
Yep.
And don't throw out, rhetorics, over the top rhetoric, just sayings, quotes, whatever. Hit it point by point by point. Destroy their argument every single day on every single topic. I don't know one thing that the Republicans or the right have to be on the defensive of right now.
No.
Not one.
No.
Don't ever let them position it. And that's one of the reasons, and Scott Jennings, I will say, is probably the one that there's still times he doesn't do what I wish to do, but the vast majority of the time he is able to turn it around. We'll have an example coming up here in just what was the one yesterday that he had? Let me just go through this real quick. This is on crime, okay? This is on crime.
All right.
And listen to this here. This is where Abby goes. Here we go.
And it's also because the military serves a role to protect Americans, not to be used against Americans.
Exactly. You keep saying used against Americans. What kind of Americans do you mean? The ones that are murdering us, carjacking us, raping us, terrorizing our cities? I mean, you're saying like he's creating an actual war against American citizens when what he's actually creating is a war against criminals and, by the way, illegal aliens who they are rounding up by the bucket load in Washington.
I want to let Ellie...
Of course.
You hear it?
Yeah.
I want to let... She can't argue the point.
Right. No, she can't.
Right. So you defeat the point, and then you go back and you go, wait a minute, don't go to Ellie. You said this.
Right.
Don't go to somebody else.
Right.
You said the military is being used against Americans.
Right.
That's not true. Retract that.
Right. You're making it seem like that these are law-abiding citizens who are doing nothing, and Trump is just going to war with them.
Right. And that's the point. I know it's a different topic than the shooting. I mean, they all fit under the umbrella of crime, but it's just where it's how you argue.
Yeah.
With the left.
Yeah.
Which means, and because that's sometimes the frustrating thing for us, is when we see the fact that the Republicans, it's like, no, you can destroy their argument. And isn't that what it's about? Political parties only exist for one reason: to win on the issues. To win on the issues, you got to win on the argument of the issues. You have to win in the arena of ideas every single day.
Yeah, you got to jump in.
And you got to do it where anybody can understand it clearly and precisely.
I think of the years, and not too long ago, when it seemed everyone in office on the right just didn't want to have any discussion.
Yeah.
The only time they would have a debate is when they were forced to during a campaign.
Oh, remember how furious we get on race?
Oh,
Like, come
my
on,
gosh.
they're the party that practices identity politics. They still don't hit that strong enough.
No.
Destroy them. When they come and dare to call Republicans racist, you're the damn party that judges people by groups and not individuals through your identity politics. That's all you do. And it's been recognized by the leadership of the Democrats that that's what you do.
Right. That
Oh,
if your skin is a certain color, you must vote a certain way.
Right. You're the bigots. You're the racist.
They're still doing it today. Obama in
Right.
24.
Don't you ever dare call me what you are.
Yeah.
And then attack back.
Right.
Use that against them first.
Mm-hmm.
Don't wait for them to bring it up.
Obama went after black males. Remember that?
Yeah.
Remember when Biden said, if you don't vote for me, you're not really black?
Yeah. My God.
From an old white guy. Wow.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
After fuel, an owner-operator's second biggest variable cost is tires. To save, get as much life out of them as possible with good habits. Maintain proper inflation. It's free and easy, yet it's the highest saving maintenance you can perform on the truck. Improper inflation is by far the greatest reason tires fail early. Perform routine maintenance. If a technician can by hand initiate irregular movements in tie rod ends, kingpins, wheel bearings, and torque rods, that spells trouble. Fight irregular wear by replacing suspension components. On the steer axle, change your shocks at least as often as you change your tires. On the drive axle, replace shocks halfway through the tire's life, and when the tires are changed too. Finally, employ good driving habits. You have full control here. More conservative driving over rough surfaces helps reduce wear. Speeding, hard braking, curbing, and tight turns cause tires to wear fast. On the other hand, steady acceleration, braking, and steering can extend the life, saving a bundle. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section on the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Let's listen to Dana Bash yesterday on CNN. This goes back to the thoughts and prayers thing, okay?
All
Here
right.
we go. All right.
I mean, he's expressing something that I know you feel and most people feel, which is a combination of sadness, but raw rage. That forget about thoughts and prayers. These kids were literally praying.
Wow.
What does that have to do with the crime at all?
I don't know.
None.
I don't know why in the world you would go there. We're talking about a Catholic school.
Because you're desperate to blame someone. And so the entire argument is, again, it's a straw man argument that you don't care about these shootings, you don't wish to stop them, and then you throw in these thoughts and prayers like you care.
Well,
that's what it's about. That's the argument they're trying to make.
The parents of these children, the families of these children, are religious, and you're dismissing religion in the wake of this tragedy.
Yeah. The point is,
nobody cares that the kids were praying, because praying does nothing. It didn't save the children.
Let's be even more blunt what the argument is. If you don't believe in confiscating every weapon from every citizen of the United States, and you wish to give comfort to these parents and to anybody, any of the relatives and the people that have been injured, and you say thoughts and prayers, then you don't care at all. You have to be for complete and total gun control. Otherwise, you can't offer comfort when there's a tragedy.
Right.
That's the point they're trying to make.
Right.
And, of course, it's bogus.
It always is.
Because and the other message is, you don't care to do anything. Well, no. We just differ from what you wish to do. There's a lot of different ways, but to sit there and to try to make the case that all Christians and Republicans and conservatives have is thoughts and prayers, they don't want to solve any problem at all, is a straw man argument.
Yeah. But it's all they got.
Yeah.
On our website, RedEyeRadioShow.com. Show info with stations, podcasts, and more. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Very easy to do. Just take seconds, and you can take us wherever you go.
Mm-hmm. And thank you.
You can listen to our podcast, which is a repeat of our show. All right, so... Well, it's good to see that we go back to old Van Jones, not Van Jones from the Obama administration. That remember when he was there and it was like, well, he's the true socialist. And then he's come out in the last couple of years and talked about, well, you know, the Democratic Party has to be more moderate. What does he have to say? I don't even understand what the argument is as he framed it yesterday on MSNBC. After the mass shooting in Minnesota. Here we go.
As an elected official, you are on the ground with your folks and you appreciate this journey. I agree with the mayor. I'm not, the thoughts and prayers, I'm so beyond that nonsense, the lie.
The hell does that even mean?
The lie. You don't mean it. You don't have faith. You're just saying it, and it's a lie.
But the amazing thing is, because the narrative was all over the place, the left, that was the main issue on the left yesterday, the one where they were unified on, was thoughts and prayers. And as we said, well, what do you mean? What is your argument against it? And the point they're trying to bring out is, Republicans, Christians, conservatives don't want to do anything about crime. You can't make that point if you were ever going to try to make that point, you cannot make that point over the last couple of weeks, especially with the whole Washington, D.C. situation.
Yeah.
You can't make it.
No.
You know, you and I had just said yesterday or the day before, and what blows our minds about the left is they want the Second Amendment gone. They want nobody to have any ability to protect themselves with a firearm in the United States. That's their ultimate goal.
Right.
Yet they're the ones that supported Bragg when Bragg became the DA in New York and said, if you go and commit an armed robbery, if you don't shoot the gun, we won't charge it with a felony. If you just scare people with the gun and terrify people with the gun, it's just a misdemeanor. They don't even want to punish gun crimes. Where was the left in fury at Bragg when he said that? Now, he got pushback in New York City, and the right was completely outraged. Who wants to punish people for committing crimes? Who wants to get criminals off the street?
And they're fighting against it.
They're fighting against it in every single way. And that they expect they're going to have the moral high ground and then make the straw man argument that Christians and conservatives and Republicans, well, I don't know if the lie means that they don't mean it, or the lie is that Republicans believe that if they say thoughts and prayers, that it will stop all crime. I'm not sure what the lie is.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Because it's like, that's a straw man argument. Nobody is saying that on the right. They're simply saying we have compassion for your loss. God, it's too easy. These people are nuts. They really are nuts.
And meanwhile, you have people in that community that went to Annunciation yesterday evening, and it was I guess an impromptu service of sorts where they were, well, I know the left doesn't want to hear this, praying, because it is a Catholic school, Catholic church. They tend to do that.
Oops.
Even the governor of Minnesota, Tim Walz, this is maybe proof that he won't be running in 28, offered prayers in the first months after learning about the shooting.
Mm-hmm.
The left wants to shut the prayer thing down. Why is that? Because they know that it's the one thing they can't take from you. The one thing they can't take from you is your faith. The one thing they can't, but it doesn't mean they don't try. What they want to do is make you look silly. That's the attempt. How silly are you to offer your meaningless prayers? That gives me more drive to pray even more, because they won't steal my faith. They try and come after certain things and certain rights. And we mentioned guns already, the right to protect yourself. But the one thing they know they can't take from your heart is your faith. So we've got to make it look silly. We don't want you out there offering thoughts and prayers, because they know when that happens, it brings about what, growing up we called a prayer chain. It brings about the encouragement of others to act in their faith and pray. And they can't have that. They despise that. They despise a nation that wants to be a nation of laws that includes enforcement. They despise a nation that has many millions of people who are believers and have a strong faith and do pray often in good times and bad. And the last thing they want to see all over social media everywhere is a reminder of the fact that that's the one thing they can't take from you.
And it infuriates them?
It just maddens them. They think by acting in this arrogance, they're going to embarrass you. Sorry. Not a chance. I'm proud of my faith. I'll always be proud of my faith. I don't need to go out and wear it on my sleeve because it's in my heart. And you'll never take it, regardless of what you do. In fact, the more you attack it, the stronger you make it. And they know they can't do anything about that. That's the kind of strength, that inner strength, that truly builds and rebuilds communities. It's the kind of strength that keeps people going in terms of action, not just words. And we can express that we're praying and we're sending love to these families. But in the hearts of true believers, you put all of that into action, whether you're actually reaching out and doing something for that community or not. you know that there is a greater responsibility for you to behave based on your faith. And they can't do anything about it.
Yeah, what a debacle, and it was yesterday. The straw man arguments, the not wanting to address the concerns out there, the mental illness concerns, and look at everything. And by the way, that isn't political.
No.
If you're trying to figure out why people do things, and there are things we're not going to be able to figure out. But when the left is the left created the argument that transgenders have huge mental issues. They created it in order to stop the right from asking questions.
Yeah.
And then I'm, sitting there looking at some of the quotes over the last 48 hours because the DNC was in Minneapolis. Minneapolis will remain a safe haven for the trans community. We are a safe haven for transgender individuals. We're suing Trump for gender-affirming care. When our children tell us who they are, it's our job of grown-ups to believe them. That comes from the Minneapolis mayor, the governor, the AG, and the lieutenant governor. And you saw the mayor come out and say that, basically this isn't a time to attack. Nobody's attacking transgenders. What do you mean the attacks?
No.
You're the ones that are saying the left has the argument. They created the argument to shut up the right, to try to shut up the right, to put the right on the defensive that you're transphobic if you ask any questions. Because if you ask a question, they're more likely to commit suicide, and therefore you're committing violence against transgenders. Well, then there's a mental health issue here. No, there's not. You just said there was. Unless suicide at a much greater rate is now normalized activity for people, for certain people. Is that what you're saying?
The left has not acted on it.
No, they haven't.
They go out of their way to bury it, to ignore it, and to keep others from discussing it.
And actually enable it with children.
Mm-hmm.
With insane ideas that children should be able to cut off body parts and get irreversible hormone treatments without parents' notification. As we've said before, parents shouldn't be able to approve that either. If you're over whatever the legal age is for that, and you wish to do it as an adult, can't stop you. Children, no, absolutely not. That's the insanity of the left right now. Absolute insanity. And every Democrat listening right now, you know that in your heart. You know that narrative is insane. It's crazy. It's evil. It's perverted.
Well,
you know
remember,
it.
there was a group, Gays Against Grooming.
Yeah.
They came out and said, this is not what we want.
Right.
It's not what we're about.
Yeah. They're still out there, yeah.
And this is the people who are on the right side of this, and I don't mean politically, but the people who are on the right side of this are the ones that are going to have to ultimately address this situation. Not just the legal battle for children, that is paramount. But also a priority should be addressing a mental health crisis and bringing it to the point that it must be discussed and addressed. The left wants to shut you down by shouting you down. Don't let that happen. It shows you they're weak and they have no argument.
866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. The mass shooting does relate to the general crime narrative from Democrats over the last couple of weeks. I do want to play this audio cut here. This is from Mayor Bowser of Washington, D.C., about the surge in D.C.
And we greatly appreciate the surge of officers that enhance what MPD has been able to do in this city. The most significant thing that we are highlighting today is the area of crime that was most troubling for us in 2023. Now, we have driven it down over the last years, but I'm going to get my glasses so I can make sure I can see it correctly. But for carjackings, the difference between this period, this 20-day period of this federal surge and last year represents a 87% reduction in carjackings in Washington, D.C. We know that when carjackings go down, when the use of gun goes down, when homicide or robbery go down, neighborhoods feel safer and are safer. So this surge has been important to us.
There you go. Yep. So I guess it is more than just thoughts and prayers to solve the problem, huh?
Yeah, I guess. They still are battling against this, and it's just weird. We thought, you and I were both thinking the same thing. We get a few days into this, they'll just kind of let it go away, right? Just, all right, we can't fight. This isn't, no. Every step of the way, they're fighting this. Every step of the way. How dare you want to enforce the law and make it safer for law-abiding citizens?
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. We'll get back to all of the insanity. Well, this is just more insanity here. This was after last week, after we got our great listener to actually go through. Because we had, and maybe it was 2 weeks ago, I had said idiot, and you said, no, moron.
Yeah.
I forgot what we were talking about, but it was
right.
Like, these people are just idiots.
Probably liberals.
Okay, and you said morons.
I'm just taking a guess.
And so we had a great listener who actually described to us the scientific relating to IQ.
Yeah, the listener's a doctor.
Right. So it was like the way it goes is idiot's the worst, then imbecile, then moron, right?
Right.
Yeah, exactly.
In terms of the IQ level, there's actually a clinical
definition,
clinically defined level for each of them, idiot being the worst.
And so this is really interesting when I saw this article from Rich Lowry, National Review. Brandon Johnson is a moron. But then he said, if mayoral idiocy, so he brings idiot into it. He's got to look, Rich. We're being monitored by our listeners to make sure that we get it correct.
By doctors.
Doctors are analyzing this thing.
The View has lawyers. We have doctors. There might be a reason for that. But it's, and thank you to all the medical professionals who do monitor us. But it's, if you're going to include, I guess you could technically, when I was in medical school, I guess you could entertain the fact that a moron could also be practicing idiocy. Idiocy being the practice. In other words,
right.
He would be making it even worse because as a moron, they're giving him a lot of credit here.
No, I would think that a moron could sink to the level of an idiot.
Yeah. Now,
I guess it averages
could
out,
be a
right?
moron, right?
Look,
I'm a moron. Proud moron.
What's above moron?
I don't know. Normal.
Yeah. Confused?
Maybe. Moderate. Politically moderate. I don't know. Yeah. So, but I would guess, that a moron could engage in idiocy.
It's funny because I put in what's above moron. First thing that comes up, Wikipedia, imbecile. It goes, the term imbecile was once used by psychiatrists to denote a category of people with moderate to severe intellectual disability. This is where the doctor got it from before. The word arises from a Latin word meaning weak or weak-minded. It originally referred to people of the second order in a former and discarded classification of intellectual disability with a mental age of 3 to 7 years and an IQ of 20 to 50. Above idiot, IQ below 25. Below moron, IQ of 51 to 70. In the obsolete medical classification, I guess they dropped that in 77. There you go.
Yeah. Well, in the clinical sense, it's used to describe politicians all the time.
It's just, but I love, because when I first went to it, it said, this has occurred earlier with the earlier synonyms, for example, moron, imbecile, cretin, and idiot.
Yeah.
Formerly used as a scientific terms in the early 20th century.
All right.
And then when you go on, this is from January 2023 from Medium.com. I had no idea that idiot, imbecile, and moron were clinical terms.
Yeah, at one point they were. Well, based on what we do, you forget, easily, I guess, that they were. I'm not sure that I ever knew that they were, but certainly in engaging in what we do, we kind of throw those labels around pretty easily. Only because they're idiots, imbeciles, and morons.
Even though at the time we were not using them as clinical terms.
No. We don't have the ability to do that. And we don't qualify to be doing that.
Did you guys give them an IQ test when you called them a moron? I can see that coming back. It's like,
I have trouble
looking for a weak spot in our argument. We got one. Did you guys look up the IQ to find out if that person really is an idiot, imbecile, or moron? Did you?
I have trouble spelling IQ, so let's just slow down on what kind of test I might administer.
But when you get to the, we talk about the mass shooting yesterday, crime, and the whole general topic, because they're all one. They're all crimes. And it's really interesting that the Democrats believe that they can get the moral high ground on crime over the last couple of weeks after that horrendous mass shooting in Minnesota. But it says Brandon Johnson is a moron. If mayoral idiocy were justification for a National Guard deployment, the troops would be headed to Chicago right now.
No.
At a press conference denouncing President Trump for considering Chicago as a next destination for the Guard, Brandon Johnson demonstrated if there were any doubt that he's a walking woke cliche who is a clear and present danger to the safety of the city residents. According to Johnson, we cannot incarcerate our way out of violence. We've already tried that, and we've ended up with the largest prison population in the world without solving the problems of crime and violence. He declared our addiction to jails and incarceration in this country. It's racist, it's immoral, it is unholy, and it is not the way to drive violence down. We cannot return to the same failed strategies that got us here in the first place. As the mayor of the city that regularly leads the United States in murders, one would think that Johnson would demonstrate a little more humility on that question. Chicago had nearly 600 murders in 2024 and the 8th highest homicide rate in the nation. It had the highest homicide rate among the big cities. The Windy City has seen recent declines, but as with Washington, D.C., a downward trajectory doesn't make the intolerable more acceptable. Charles Lehman of the Manhattan Institute points to studies showing this effect, including one finding that after Maryland reduced jail time for young adults, offenders committed an average of 2.8 criminal acts and 1.5 serious crimes during the time they otherwise would have been behind bars. And it's not true that we drastically increased incarceration without effect. You and I talked about this the other day. Imprisonments began to rise in response to a historic crime wave beginning about a half century ago, after which that wave finally receded. You can argue how much prisons were responsible for the reduction in crime, but that clearly played a part. There's no exaggerating, by the way, the human cost of the country's murder spree that spurred so-called mass incarceration. Homicide victimization rates doubled between 1960 and 1980 and didn't begin a consistent decline until the mid-1990s. Barry Latzer has written on these pages from National Review from 1970 to 2005, a staggering 673,993 Americans were murdered, more than that died in all our wars from World War II on. As for prisons being racist, rates of incarceration clearly track rates of criminal offending. And it's violent crime that drives prison time. Drug offenders are overwhelmingly traffickers, not people caught for possession. We talked about that a few years ago. Remember that when that was being brought up?
Right.
If we are going to rely less on prison as a tool of the criminal justice system, we need to decide whether we are going to be more lax in our treatment of rape, murder, burglary, and or robbery. With regard to Chicago, it's manifestly absurd to believe the city's problem is that too many criminal offenders are being arrested and jailed. In order to believe the mayor, you'd have to believe that.
Right.
That taking the criminal off the street, that increases crime. There's a cause and effect. You put people in jail, there's fewer criminals on the street. Therefore, according to Brandon Johnson, crime rises in a city.
Simple math. Moronic math.
Wow. That was like Morning Joe the other day going after him, trying to get him. What do you mean? If you put 5,000 more cops on the streets, you don't think it'd make a difference? And he wouldn't answer the question.
Wouldn't answer. We can't incarcerate our way to a solution. Well, yeah, actually, you can.
Yeah, of course.
By putting those committing the crimes behind bars. Remember when the big the huge surge in stealing off the shelf. I hesitate in saying shoplifting because it was like mega shoplifting. They were going in and just filling carts, and then each of them running out of the store with a filled cart. Mm-hmm. And they found out that in some cases it came down to a few hundred people in a large metro area.
Yes.
That were consistently
I remember that.
involved.
Yep. It was like, what was it, like the same 300 people?
Yeah. They said it was
something, a couple of hundred people.
They were consistently involved, and that's where they thought, okay, This is organized, they believed. And the point is, imagine if you came in and you swept, you did just a huge crackdown, and you were able to take most, if not all, of those people and put them behind bars. Well, now you have a situation where those responsible, the overwhelming majority, if not all, would be incarcerated. They're not stealing anything off a shelf any longer. But the left doesn't want that. The left wants you to, no. We need to help get them back on the street. We need bail reform where we can go in and make it very easy for them to bail out and get right back to what they were doing. They're pro-crime. They want this crime and chaos. They're pro-open border. They want the crime and chaos. They're pushing for this. They're fighting for this. And when President Trump does something about it in D.C., they start screaming against law enforcement. And it's bizarre to watch because you and I remember a time, I think New York City was probably one of those key moments, but, you know, in our era, it was a big deal where Giuliani came in and said, nope, we're going to clean this up. And they did. Through law enforcement. And now you have the left pushing at this goes beyond, by the way, it's part of, but it takes it even further, the whole defund the police thing. This is now not only defund the police, resist the police at every step. There's a reason that major departments, police departments all across America, are having such a problem in recruiting. Because who would want to do that? Who would want to be in a uniform and serve a community whose leaders are working against them? Mm-hmm. Law and order. We're going to fight against crime used to be the rallying cry of both parties of every single campaign. And now it's only on the right. How dare you fight against crime? They're looking at you. You heard Mayor Bowser on the carjackings thing.
Yep. Done 87%.
It's working, and the left cannot handle that. This defeats what? This defeats years of defund the police. The police are bad. Defund ICE. Abolish ICE. Everything that Trump is doing is completely defeating their agenda. Not that they won't keep trying, but the anger from them comes from the fact that they're being proven wrong by the numbers, and the people know it.
86690 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. And so, after the horrendous mass shooting murder in Minnesota, you know, you and I talked about just how the talking points of thoughts and prayers became the dominant narrative. Don't know how it relates to it because there's no one out there saying that thoughts and prayers stop people from dying or being killed, right, as we started the show out with.
Yeah.
Why that became the narrative is because I really think, and we know that the mayor brought it up. You had Jen Psaki bring it up, and then it just went all across the board. Well, thoughts and prayers. So, as if that's the only thing that conservatives want to do. Andrew Pollock, whose daughter Meadow died in Parkland, said it was 6 years ago after my daughter murdered at school, and I mean it today. We must fix it because our children are counting on us to do whatever it takes to keep them safe. Gun-free zones make adults feel good, but kill our kids. Cultivating mental illness, trans is dangerous. The left is so desperate that they were trying to put the narrative through yesterday that all they have is thoughts and prayers, and they think thoughts and prayers are going to solve the problem. Nobody's ever said that. That's a straw man argument. No one has ever said that at all. But the left has been panicking. You know, when you had Mayor Bowser come out yesterday and talk about what a great response Trump has been with the surge in D.C.
Mm-hmm.
You can't argue with it. You can't argue with the statistics. So they're looking for something. They're so desperate that someone went, let's attack thoughts and prayers.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Think how ridiculous it is. Let's go after thoughts and prayers.
And the shooting was at a Catholic school.
Yeah, exactly.
When you know the entire community and the church and the families are going to be steeped in prayer for days, if not years.
And if you look at the rhetoric that was used by the murderer, it's all rhetoric we've heard coming from the left.
Yes.
What was written on the guns is what we've seen from the left.
Right.
Sorry, it's what we've seen.
Yep.
And when you look at Minnesota overall, and we'll get to some of the comments Miranda Devine from the New York Post made yesterday, saying you got total dysfunction when it comes to the criminal justice system in Minnesota to begin with, and gives the specific examples. We'll get to that and more on the way.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Carney, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. So the mass murder shooting in Minnesota does relate to crime in general. Democrats are losing that big time. Their response, and think about this, their response, because I couldn't believe it. When I heard, again, that Jen Psaki had said it, I went, well, she's just a vile human being. And then you saw that was the narrative across the board from the liberal media.
Right.
Let's go after thoughts and prayers. And we're like, anybody was like, what's the point? Are they saying that thoughts and prayers is what will stop death? Because you would have a point if that was your point.
If anyone was out there claiming
that, yes. Nobody was claiming it. It's how they wish to attempt to comfort people. Right. So now is the left picking and choosing how to comfort people? I mean, it's the most bizarre thing, because they were trying to make the case that's all the right has to offer and nothing else.
Right.
That's untrue. You may not agree with what the Republican Christian conservatives, whatever, wish to do in order to stop crime, but you can't make the case that all they're offering is thoughts and prayers. It's a completely different topic. The thoughts and prayers are for comfort after a tragedy happens. Nobody is saying that's the only solution to stop school or church shootings. Nobody's making that argument. So it was a straw person to begin with. So
yeah, it's the left, though, again, has no game. And they cannot stand to see people come together in prayer. They can't stand to see people come together in supporting a community that is suffering, families that are suffering. And they certainly can't do it based on something that for them is out of reach. Your faith is something they can't take from you. They can't diminish that. In fact, for me, they only make it stronger when they behave this way. And they prove me right. I don't need any further confirmation or anything else for my faith to exist and to go on. They need this whole thing to go away, because if they can just get people to feel embarrassed by their faith, then they can make inroads, which is part of basically degrading and diminishing, and at some point disassembling the Constitution.
So when you look at it, I'm reading here Miranda Devine's column, New York Post. Deadly Minnesota school shooting reflects tragic cost of a disordered society, including Democratic leaders who lost the plot. If there was ever an example of the perils of the Democrat approach to crime and social disorder, it is Minneapolis, ground zero of the George Floyd defund the police movement that roiled the country 5 years ago, and a sanctuary transgender state. The deadly mass shooting of small children on Wednesday brings home the tragic cost of a disordered society where evil rampages unchecked, and those who would protect the vulnerable are handcuffed and pushed away. It's too early to say exactly or even if the tragedy could have been prevented, yet Minnesota Democrats have already reached for their lazy gun control mantra in a state that is among the strictest gun control laws in the country. Of course, they remain silent about the anti-Christian radical gender ideology that appears to have driven the latest spate of school shootings, from the murders at the Covenant School in Nashville, Tennessee in November of 2023, at the Abundant Life Christian School in Madison, Wisconsin in December 2024, to Wednesday's rampage. At least we now have an FBI that tells the truth about the motivating hatreds so that we can try to understand the pathology and stop its spread. Robin Westman, 23, had his mother apply to the Minnesota District Court to legally change his name to Robert in January of 2020. Minor children identifies as a female and wants her name to reflect the identification. That's a quote. The court order said granting name change to the minor. There is no indication of what medications Westman was taking, but mental illness combined with hormonal treatment and antidepressants are a recipe for rage. A YouTube manifesto speaks to the depression and suicidal thoughts, as well as anti-Christian, anti-Jewish, demonic ravings adorned with pride flags. He wrote "Kill Trump" along with the anti-Israel racist messages and the names of other mass killers on his weapons and ammunition. The increasingly violent rhetoric of the trans movement has been embraced by Minnesota's politicians. Minnesota Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan wore a T-shirt emblazoned with a hunting knife and the slogan "Protect Trans Kids" during a 2023 press conference celebrating an executive order signed by Governor Walz to make Minnesota a trans refuge state for gender-affirming care, a.k.a. surgical and chemical castration of children. She's now running for the U.S. Senate. God, these people are so evil and perverted, Eric. I'm telling you. They really are.
Yeah.
Woke Waltz earned the nickname Tampon Tim during his ill-fated vice presidential run with Harris last year after he signed legislation requiring free menstrual products to be provided in boys' bathrooms for grades 4 through 12. Just 2 days ago at the DNC meeting in Minneapolis, radical left Minnesota AG Keith Ellerson boasted to a cheering audience, "We have sued Trump for gender-affirming care." We played that audio in yesterday's show. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey hijacked a police press conference about the Annunciation shooting to blast the public for what he claimed was a whole lot of hate being directed at our trans community. He also sneered at anyone praying for the victims. Don't just say this is about thoughts and prayers right now. These kids were literally praying. Nobody ever said that.
No.
To say these public officials have lost the plot is an understatement. If Waltz, Fry, and Ellison are familiar names to you, it's because they played a central role in the calamity that struck a pandemic-crazed country in the summer of 2020, the deadly BLM Antifa riots that raged after the death of Floyd, a drug-affected criminal at the hands of Minnesota police. Instead of behaving responsibly after the tragedy, these Democratic leaders poured gasoline on the fire and seemed to revel in the mayhem. Waltz delayed calling out the National Guard for at least 20 hours. His wife, Gwen, remember this, weirdly spoke of keeping, quote, the windows open as long as I could to smell the aroma of burning tires, because it felt like that was such a touchstone of what was happening. Oh, my God.
It's just sick.
The mayor ordered the 3rd Precinct to surrender its police station to the mob as sort of a ritual sacrifice. Ellison railroaded Derek Chauvin and 3 other cops for Floyd's death and lied that President Trump's supporters were to blame for the riots. These are the people who find political profit in chaos and disorder. It is incredible that they paid no price for the death and destruction they unleashed. Well, that's because that's what the Democratic voter in Minnesota wants.
Yep.
Understand, it's what the voter wants now. People that remain Democrat, they want the chaos. They want the crime. They want the insanity. They want the chaos.
These are the things they're fighting for. These are the things they're actually fighting for right now.
Look at this here. And it continues to the day in the form of undermanned and demoralized police forces around the country. The Minneapolis police force has been so beaten down that it now just has 350 street cops compared to 900 before Floyd. According to former Twin Cities TV news anchor Liz Collin, who was taken off the air during the 2020 riots because her husband was a police union chief. These cops are already stretched to the limit, Collin told Megyn Kelly, pointing to the Annunciation School massacre was the 4th shooting incident in Minneapolis in less than 24 hours. If Democrats wonder why their political stock is spiraling into the death zone, they need to look no further than their willful failures on urban crime and border protection. As you and I have said, it's really the same thing. And she continues to go on, with it all. The insanity. Again, we've seen it with what the National Guard in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
It's working.
Right.
And all they wish to do is tell you it's the worst thing you could possibly imagine. They lie. We talked about, what's her name, on CNN, where Scott Jennings had to straighten her out. Abby, I can't remember her last name. When she came out and she said, the military is supposed to be protecting civilians, not going after them. So what the hell are you talking about? They're not going after civilians. They're going after criminals.
Right. There's a clear difference. In fact, and in doing so, they are protecting civilians.
Right.
Which is the whole point.
But that's the entire point. They don't see a difference between criminals and law-abiding citizens. There's no difference. Why do you think? And it's not just the Democratic Party on the federal level. It's also the Democratic voter. As we saw, pluralities and majorities, depending on where you are in the country, of Democrats support criminal illegal immigrants being free on the streets of their community.
Yep.
And they think they're going to win the moral high ground by lying and trying to imply that all the other side wishes to do is pray and they don't want to solve the criminal problem on the streets today. Are you kidding me? You really are going to try to use that? You're so intellectually and morally bankrupt That's all you've got?
It really is. And also what they cannot stand. What they cannot stand is the fact that Trump is doing things about it. Trump's doing things about the border. He's doing things about crime. They can't stand this. And you know, in a world and a time in our society when the left is cheering on the gunning down of a healthcare CEO in cold blood on the streets and turning the shooter into a hero, aside from other mental health issues in future shootings, if you've got that person on your side and fully indoctrinated, they think in their mind they're going to be a hero. They think they're going to be a hero. Whatever they're doing is going to make them as close to immortal as you can get. They think everybody's cheering. If they're all cheering for violence and crime, this is okay for me to do. In fact, I'm called upon to do it.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90-RED-EYE on Red Eye Radio.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Well, one good thing yesterday, I checked on Google just now again just to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
And again, the news cycle was dominated by the horrendous mass murder shooting in Minnesota. But nowhere did I see yesterday that the president mentioned the 600,000 Chinese students. That would be good.
Yeah, let's hope it's done.
Let's hope it's done. If you didn't mention it yesterday, and because I didn't see any story where he put it on Truth Social.
No.
So
I actually have my notifications set for his account on Truth Social.
Okay.
And I didn't get any notifications, so
move on from that one.
Yeah.
So,
let's abandon that thought altogether.
Yes.
Yeah. Hopefully that discussion is over. We'll see.
Well, it was, like I said, even Epstein. This was universal condemnation by his base.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. It's going to be hard. Again, you could tell the second day when they were doubling down, it was becoming harder and harder for them to argue it.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America, he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
See, it was good that at least on doing my Google search, I could not find that the president yesterday talked about, bringing in 600,000 Chinese students.
Mm-hmm.
And probably better if he is going to mention again, he didn't do it yesterday. The story was out yesterday. The Chinese doctor accused of attempting to smuggle highly sensitive cancer research from the U.S. to China. A Chinese doctor was busted in Texas for allegedly trying to smuggle cancer-related research back to China. The 35-year-old employed by the MD Anderson Cancer Center since 2022 was confronted at an airport by officers from the U.S. Customs and Border Protection on July 9th, according to the Harris County District Attorney's Office. The office said the authorities, working in coordination with Homeland Security investigations, found evidence that he was attempting to take sensitive medical information abroad during an inspection of his belongings. We were able to detain him as he was trying to get on a flight to China, said the Harris County District Attorney. The intellectual property stays with us so we can save lives. Lee was charged with the theft of trade secrets and tampering with a government record. The theft charge carries a penalty of 2 to 10 years in prison and a fine of up to $10,000. The attorney's office said Lee was staying in the U.S. on a non-immigrant research scholar exchange visa provided by the State Department. Marco. The research he was working on was funded through the National Institutes of Health and the Department of Defense. Court documents viewed by Fox 26 Houston said Lee uploaded sensitive data to his personal Google Drive account while working for MD Anderson, and when the institution found out about it and confronted him, he deleted the files. However, the documents added that Lee also uploaded the data to a file hosting service based on a Chinese server. Wow. On that storage drive, investigators found unpublished research data and articles representing trade secrets, including material restricted confidential research data, writings, drawings, and models. So there you go. So he was busted on that. And so it was, that story came out yesterday, even though it happened. It came out yesterday. Whether it was released by Fox in relation to Trump talking about 600,000 Chinese students coming over, don't know. But the one thing we did notice on the same day that Trump doubled down on that, which would have been 2 days ago, actually, was the same day that Governor Abbott signed the bill in Texas where anyone who was a hostile adversarial country against the United States, anybody from there can't buy land here, and the number one country they mentioned was China. So it would behoove the president to drop that.
Yeah,
And
you're not going to win it, and you're not going to win it for many reasons, but it's the most obvious reason is the fact that everybody knows the moment you announce that program that it's actually going to happen, China's going to line them up. 600,000. What? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Well, and think about the concerns that we have had. This latest concern through a program from the State Department. And by the way, we were asking, where's Marco Rubio?
That's why I said
maybe he knew this was going down.
That's why I said Marco.
And the whole thing was anybody looking at it, and I know this is the thing. I know that President Trump knows this. I know he's aware of his base and others in the Republican Party.
Oh, yeah.
That have shared the great concerns over real things that China has done and or attempted. You cannot give them this kind of wide open opportunity. You can't possibly vet them. What are you going to do? Trust China, the government of China? That's the data you would have. That's the only data you would have on them.
Is what the Chinese gave
what
you.
the government of China gives you.
Right.
And while you're doing that, have them hand over, the Wuhan lab data, all of it. Because I'm sure they would.
Well, wait a minute. That would be something. If you're going to put something in the trade deal, that would be it. We want all the data from Wuhan.
Right.
You want a trade deal? That's what we want.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that was it. Of the second term, that was the most bizarre moment of this presidency.
Yeah,
because every single, it was as close as you could get to 100%. And anybody, it was funny because I think I'd mentioned on the air, I don't know if I mentioned on the air or off the air, there was one of the comments, and it was it was a female influencer. What was it? I think it's like Conservative Katie or something like that. I think it's someone who was like notified, very noted, was trying to defend Trump on it somehow. She got eviscerated.
Yeah. There's no way to win that argument.
Yeah, she just got what are you talking about? It's yeah. So it's good that is that's gone. In other news, this actually, chronologically speaking, is a little out of order because this came out yesterday. Cracker Barrel took down Pride page after the rebrand fiasco. That happened before they announced. That happened before they announced they were going to keep the old logo and put the old sign back on.
Right.
So that actually happened before. Was his name Robbie Starbuck? He promoted that like 3 days ago that they had taken that down at that point.
Right.
Cracker Barrel has quietly removed the Pride page from its website after facing consumer backlash over its rebranding efforts. The website link for Cracker Barrel's Pride page, which used to boast that the company was bringing the porch to Pride, now redirects to its culture and belonging page. For God's sakes, get rid of all of that.
Here's what you have.
The menu.
You have a page that shows your locations.
And the menu.
You have a page that, maybe people could buy merch from.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And then all of that surrounds your product, which is food. Not that difficult.
Jeez.
Have a picture of the food on every page. The power of suggestion. Like when Eric is hungry and he looks at a biscuit. Well, now he's got to have a biscuit.
And what's your philosophy when it comes to the public in general? All are invited.
People, but only people who like to eat.
Right.
For those who don't consume food.
All carnivores are.
I don't know. They may have a vegan meal. I don't know.
I know.
I haven't checked it. But look, 80s supermodels who don't eat, probably not their target audience. But otherwise, anyone who eats on a regular basis.
Anybody not watching their weight.
Well, this would be.
I'm kidding.
For me, that would be. It's so easy. Because, and it's proven with commercials, if you've got, and in today's digital world, they could be everywhere, but you show a piping hot meal sitting on a plate, it's that power of suggestion. Now, I hate when they do it like late at night and they're closed. It's like, dang it. And I don't have any biscuit mix. Well, you're focusing on it's what we said about Starbucks. It's simple. Hey, look, if they were going to be honest about it, if you wanted to be funny about it, hey, you have a caffeine addiction, and we know it. We're going to bump up our price because we think our caffeine is the best caffeine. And we serve it pretty quick. Feed your addiction. We'll see you in the morning and the afternoon and probably on the way home from work.
But when it comes to being inclusive, you don't need
it's already a given.
Right. You don't need to even mention that.
Yeah, we're inclusive to anybody who likes to eat.
Right. Come on, join us.
Everyone's welcome.
Everyone is welcome for our Thanksgiving special.
That's right. You want gravy on that? Someone who was it? I think it was Dusty Slay, great comedian, the other day that had the bit. You can get dumplings as a side item, so you could get chicken and dumplings with dumplings on the side at Cracker Barrel. It's one of those. You can have chicken and dumplings, and those are the it's the very basics of it. It's not that hard. The power of suggestion is very real, because when you're hungry, like you have to fast for the doctor because you're going to get blood work or something, and you're sitting around, you're watching TV. Worst channel to watch. I don't know. Is it still on? I don't have cable, but back in the day for me, the worst channel to watch was the Food Channel, the Food Network. Mm-hmm. Like, you don't want to do that. The power of suggestion in advertising is also very real. And you also have to promote a value. It may not, sometimes it's not the cheapest. Starbucks, for instance. But what do? You promote a value based on, well, these are the items. You're going to get this kind of coffee served this way only from us. We do it better than anybody else. That kind of thing. Your customer, again, saying this earlier this week, your customer knows what to expect. They know what to expect. And then all the advertising is at that point is just and the marketing is a reminder of what it is. And it puts that little suggestion. Oh, man, I saw that Cracker Barrel commercial yesterday. Now I've got to go have the meatloaf or whatever it is. You just start that little suggestion. Next thing you know, it becomes a craving. Next thing you know, that person's bringing friends or family members because eating alone is sad. That's the thing you have to remind yourself of when you're in marketing. Or I'm wondering if they ever learn it. Because if you're on this agenda thing, you dismiss all of that.
Let me ask you this. If you are not inclusive, for example, when we have our family reunion, or if the family used to, they don't as much anymore, everybody got together for a big meal. Mm-hmm. They would get together at Cracker Barrel. There'd be 20 people there. Mm-hmm. Not everybody shared the same politics. It didn't matter. It never got, if it got brought up, you just simply, if somebody got a little bit, hey guys, mellow out over there, whatever. Mm-hmm. But everybody got together because they were family. If you don't believe in that, if you've rejected family members, if family doesn't come first, if only your agenda matters to you, then you don't understand the whole concept of serving food to begin with, and the culture in our society, and the culture, for example, in a place like Cracker Barrel, where everybody is welcome to get together to have a meal together.
Yeah, MAGA. Make awesome grits again.
Yes. Exactly.
It's
I like that.
It's real simple. And then when you get out to the car, you can start your arguing.
Now, no, but that's true.
Yeah.
But that's actually true. My family, everybody gets together. This goes back, oh my gosh, probably when I got on this show and then it went national and people were listening. So it's 20 years ago. Mm-hmm. Is when a few of the cousins that were more liberal were like, I'd come in and you could see, like, should we approach him? And they approached me, and it was all fine. Mm-hmm. And it was funny because when they first started questioning me, and none of it was at all in a bad way at all. You just don't do that in my family. It's just you don't.
Right.
I first didn't have to defend myself because my conservative cousins did. They would ask me questions, and it was funny because there was probably about 6 of us there, and I had one cousin on one side of me, the other one on the other side. I don't think I said 2 words. They were defending me and making my arguments for me.
Yeah, the same happens with me all the time. I usually don't have to even say anything. It's people around me. If anybody's making usually for my group, it's preaching to the choir kind of thing. And they're going, yeah, I know. And then they do this, and then they do this. And I'm just looking around going, oh, okay.
Yeah, but it doesn't happen at all anymore. Except for my my one cousin who's from California. And her husband's been the biggest Red Eye fan for years.
Yeah.
And he was great. He was like, because every year they said, they're in town, but they missed you. They can't come to the reunion. And just month and a half ago, he made it. Whoa! So it was great.
Yeah, good.
He's like one of our biggest fans. It was great, Eric. It
Awesome.
really was.
That's
I
awesome.
think I forgot to tell you about that.
I think you did
I tell you about it?
mention that.
Okay, yeah. It was great. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Because
really-
I think another family member pointed out that he was such a huge fan or something like that.
Yeah, had done it in previous years. Yeah.
Yeah.
And told me he can't be here because something's going on or whatever. But
yeah.
they were visiting. Like the last couple of years, they were visiting but couldn't make it to the family reunion.
Right. Yeah.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. Due to safety concerns, many motor carriers have policies that limit or prohibit the use of cruise control. If your motor carrier does allow you to use cruise control, you should only use it in good driving conditions during daylight hours and on roads that have light traffic, few curves or hills, and a consistent speed limit. Never use cruise control when operating in adverse driving conditions, including wet, icy, or slippery roads, during rush hour in heavy traffic or on congested highways, at night, or when you're tired or fatigued. During all of these driving scenarios, you want to be controlling and adjusting your speed as you drive instead of having to suddenly brake if you encounter an obstacle. In the case of a slippery road surface, you want to be able to slow your vehicle by not accelerating instead of using the brakes whenever possible. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
We are Red Eye Radio. He's our Carly and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. My dad had a couple of good days. You know, he's got his bad days where he's not, his cognitive abilities aren't there. You know, it's just he's not there.
Yeah.
It's tough to have a conversation with him. But the last 2 days have been great, and I got him to laugh because I told him about the Cracker Barrel situation.
Yeah.
He asked me what's going on in the news, and he's like, "What? What?" And I told him, I said. He got the biggest laugh when I told him about the investor who was trying to tell the CEO who was talking about modernizing it. And she said, you know, our brand is old. He goes, old? It was old when Cracker Barrel was created in 1969.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be old.
Yeah.
It's rustic 1920s America. That was the brand. The brand is old.
Yeah.
My father was just laughing. He got the biggest kick out of that yesterday. He goes, well, yeah, that's what it was.
Right.
Oh, yeah, you're right, Dad. So,
Exactly.
even my dad knew.
Yeah. Good.
Catch all 5 hours of the show live every night on the Red Eye Radio app. Available in the App Store. Red Eye Radio.
And we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Carly, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here. All right. There was something. I did find something yesterday from the White House on the 600,000 Chinese. That plan, because we said it was awfully quiet. Katie Pavlich from Fox News put this out on X yesterday from a White House official regarding it. And this is the only thing that I saw. And she wrote, this is the quote. It's just a quote. She did not comment on it. Just put the quote from the White House official. President Trump isn't proposing an increase in student visas for Chinese students. The 600K references 2 years worth of visas. It's simply a continuation of existing policy, end of quote. the Immigration Accountability Project immediately said those numbers don't add up. In 2024, there were a total of just over 300,000 total Chinese students enrolled. That's in every grade of education.
Yeah.
Whether it's first year of college, second year of college, third year of college, fourth year of college, extended college. Said it doesn't add up. In 2024, there were just over 300,000 total Chinese students enrolled, which would include several years of visas. 300,000 visas a year would be an increase, and a drastic increase. And so I think they were trying to get out of it yesterday by stating there's no change in policy. Others said, wait a minute, you said this is part of the new Chinese deal, so why would you be promoting the status quo if it's something that you're giving them in the new Chinese deal?
Right.
So it didn't make sense. They were trying to get out. Clearly, they were trying to get out of it. They were trying to find an exit ramp yesterday because that's when that came out.
Well, which tells you they know they can't win the argument.
Yeah. And it tells you they were, to me, it also shows they didn't do their homework in giving the answer because the Immigration Accountability Project came back immediately through public records. Public, we know. That was 2024. We know exactly how many student visas every country has. Leading, India. 422,000. China, 329,000. Republic of it says Republic of Korea in parentheses, South Korea.
Oh yeah.
61,000. Canada, 46,000. Brazil, 44,000. Vietnam, 36,000. Then Nepal, Taiwan, Nigeria, Bangladesh, Japan, Mexico, Colombia, Saudi Arabia. But in the hundreds of thousands, only two countries, China and India. That's it.
Right.
So, yeah. And after nobody responded, let me just see if anybody responded to the Immigration Accountability Project here. Okay, it says it's been announced that USCIS intends to create a strict limit for all student and culture visas. If there are 300,000 one term, then 300,000 the next, this would be 600,000 Chinese students. No, and it says a headline, Trump administration plans new time limit for foreign students in the U.S. This is definitely a good development, but early reports say that the time period would be no longer than 4 years, in keeping with the normal undergrad time of length and consistent with regulations from Trump of 2025, which would still be more than we currently have.
Right.
So
right.
there it is.
Yeah.
But they're trying to sue this thing over because it did not go over well at all. And you see almost everything is yeah, it says a 2-year reference doesn't make any sense either. Foreign students usually come for 4-year degrees,
right,
and stay well beyond that. It said correct. So either the president supports this or he's trying to get the country energized to oppose it. Well, why would they have to oppose it? He doesn't need to get them to oppose it. He simply needs to stop it. He knows where they think. He knows
it was clear before this they oppose it.
Yeah.
If anything, it should have been based on activity in recent years by the Chinese. We're actually going to lower the number of student visas that will be available to China.
Right. And then again, when they said, well, we're doing it because it will bring an extra $15 billion, that means you're going to have more.
Yeah.
So they were looking for an off-ramp yesterday. I would just drop it. I wouldn't attempt to justify it anymore. You just don't say anything anymore.
Right.
And if you get asked, you simply say, we've revised the policy. We're not going to do that. And then you let it go with that.
And then you move on.
Yeah.
As long as you don't enact it, no harm, no foul. Move on.
Yeah, it's...
Again, the political move should have been both to enforce things against China and to, if you're looking to appease your base on this issue, you say we're going to actually reduce the number of visas from students for students in China coming to the U.S. based on activity in recent years and the risk, an ever-growing risk.
Yeah, and
we don't believe that risk is in play with India, but certainly we're vetting to the greatest extent possible everyone who's coming here. Of course, with China, that's laughable, but it is, again, would be a move in the opposite direction, and now it just seems like they're trying to excuse it away. Well, what we meant was, and you didn't see him saying that.
Yeah, and it's just another one. It's a terrible spin. That's not what the president said.
Exactly.
He is letting them in because it's good for us economically, which is what he said. That's in quotes.
Right.
Nevertheless, getting our greatest enemy spies out of our institutions, government, and research facilities should be the primary goal. I'm telling you, though, they need to pay attention to what's going on in the rest of the country, too, because to the president to double down on it the day that Governor Abbott of Texas came out and said that listed our biggest hostile adversarial countries, and number one is China, and we're not going to let them buy property in the U.S., for the president to come out and, yes, imply he was going to expand it because economically it would benefit us was just the absolute wrong move.
Yeah.
And you can see here, you can see that a lot of his surrogates around there saying, no.
Yep. You can't do it.
The American people who elected President Trump don't want a continuation even of that argument of the Biden existing policy.
Right.
We want a significant reduction in the number of communist Chinese coming to our universities.
Exactly.
0 would be a great number. Thank you for attention to this matter.
Yeah.
Just see. Just reading a bunch of them here. So different comments. None really positive at all. Not even for the revised one. The revised one doesn't even get approval.
Yeah. No, you're not going to win it. It's best to, again, let that, it's not exactly a sleeping dog yet, but move on and let it lie there.
I love this one. Cancel the policy, move on, don't mention it again.
No, that's it. Don't bring it up again.
And then somebody writes, that's more people of fighting age than our entire U.S. Army.
Well, funny how that works. And that was the great concern about so many Chinese men coming to the U.S. during the election season of 24.
Yeah. He goes, that's a good way to spin it. I'm sure he just said a number he heard in a briefing and repeated it. Still, that's way too many. Actually, I don't buy that because him and Lutnick were on the exact same talking points.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So this thing was workshopped. And I have no idea what happened in the meeting. You and I always sit there and say, they talked about this in the meeting and nobody stood up? Stephen Miller wasn't there? If Stephen Miller was there, could you imagine his response to that?
There should have been at least a couple of people shouting, don't ever say that outside of this room ever.
Mr. President, are you okay today?
Yeah.
Get him to the golf course now.
Right. You want to have 600,000 Chinese student visas because it'll bring you $15 billion? Yeah. $15 billion? No. Absolutely not.
Not a good take.
No, it isn't.
All right, so let's go now. This is MSNBC. Joe Scarborough and political communist Rachel Bade apparently talking about crime and Democrats. Here we go.
Trump is leaning on crime, which he just said. Democrats need a better response and fast. So, yeah, tell us more about what you found, because as Ali was reporting back, on what Democrats were excited about, what they've done over the past 6 months. One was a Texas redistricting move that didn't do anything. The second was Cory Booker talking for a real long time on the Senate floor, which didn't do anything. Let's talk about crime. And first thing I always ask is, if somebody's coming at me with an issue, how do I, take the issue away from them and reply in a stronger way? And, what's the Democrats' answer to that? If they're not going to be supporting more, like Bill Clinton, 100,000 cops on the street, what's the Democrats' response?
Well, you would think they would sort of use the opportunity to say, look, we're not soft on crime. You're accusing us of being soft on crime. We're not. We're going to call for more police officers. We're going to call for sort of an end to various decriminalization efforts that we've seen across the country since the 2020 George Floyd protests. There was sort of this movement to sort of back off a number of prosecutions. Voters have shown that they do not support that movement and actually have pushed back on in Democratic areas like Portland, like New York, like Chicago. So you would think Democrats would sort of attack this issue that way. But I've got to say, you're not seeing a lot of leaders. And I mean, from a purely political standpoint, Donald Trump on this issue believes he has the upper hand. And I think you're seeing that right now. I mean, we see a lot of Democrats talking about how, oh, this is authoritarian, right? But look, voters don't like overtly partisan power grabs, sure. But there's one thing they don't like even more, and that is feeling unsafe in their own neighborhoods. I mean, crime is a top issue for voters, especially in recent years, and it traditionally favors Republicans in their sort of tough on crime response. I mean, you guys have talked about how you think voters in New York believe crime is coming down, but if you look at polling nationwide, that is actually not the case.
We'll talk about that coming up here, just because there's some interesting things being said there.
Yeah.
866-98 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
We are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. So, coming up, we'll talk more about what we were just listening to, Joe Scarborough talking to the reporter from Politico, talking about the fact that Trump is leaning in on crime and Democrats need a better response. Well, the only reason that Democrats are bringing this up now is because they realize they're losing politically on the issue. The reason they haven't jumped aboard is because they don't believe in safer streets.
Nope.
Otherwise, they would have never jumped aboard the defund the police back in the summer of 2020 and jumped on that. And they would have, even if they were politically smart and knew that Trump was going to come in and be the law and order, president, they would have said, okay, come January, we need to now, before Trump gets in there, to talk about the fact that, look, there were some Democrats that made a big mistake on defund the police, and we are going to be voting in Congress to ensure that crime stops, and we will cooperate, and we hope that President Trump will cooperate with us and deal with us to make our streets safer. That's what you would have done.
Right.
But they weren't going to do that because they're not going to make that a political issue because they know their leftist base that controls their party right now doesn't want that. The only reason they're bringing it up now is they realize they're getting burned big time on it.
Yep.
I guess I didn't have to wait till the top of the hour. We covered it all there.
No, that's pretty much it. And they cannot, because the far left will not allow them to go anti-crime.
I know.
It's just so stupid.
I know.
Wow. At the meeting this week, which ended yesterday, their summer meeting, after the canoeing and friend bracelet making, I wonder if they talked about it. Yeah, we're gonna get serious about crime again? Yeah, we are. We're promoting crime. We're very serious about it.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.